Morning, guys and gals. Just rebuilt this old mud buddy. When I see these dual carbs these days, it's starting to think of them as a little vintage. I know a lot of people just yank them off. I haven't spent a lot of time around dual carbs, but this little motor cam went flat on it. Gave it a good rebuild. Medium-sized cam. Cleaned up those old I want to call them first gen BPS heads. They had the big exhaust valves in them. But we're going to take this thing on a run today and see how she does. We're here at Johnson's Ranch, Uncertain, Texas, on Caddo Lake. So we're going to throw this thing in the water here in a minute. Take y'all for a ride around the block. I've got the O2 sensors on this thing, just going to see how she does. Normally I run these at the water by my house, but I saw Salvania under this boat, so I drug it down here to the lake. Go ahead and fire this thing up. Really just curious how these old dual carbs are going to do on this thing. Even with that medium-sized cam in it, idle smooth as stock. Sounds good. Main complaint about the dual carbs is the lack of response off the bottom. This guy had a 40 tooth upper clutch on it and a hammer prop, had no power. Now this boat is a hurt bottom boat with soaked foam in it, pretty typical, it happens. So I went to a 38 tooth clutch, prepped that hammer up a little bit, radius of skeg. We'll see how it does. One side note on tuning these things before we get in the water is what I'm going to show you is these things have very little reversion, so there's not a big choppy idle on these dual carbs, but it's real hard to see or hear the AFR change when you're trying to set your idle. Now these things, a couple years ago I spent a long time dialing in these carbs to perfection, and about the time you get there, there's no accelerator pump, so she'll fall on its face. You've got to set these comfortably rich. It's just to cover the lack of pump. I'm going to fire it up. I've got a dual O2 in it, and I'm going to show you how you can see the response, but you can't hear the response like a normal 42 HSR. Turn the screw clockwise. See, the engine RPM doesn't change much at all, but you can see cylinder 2 went real rich right there. Now I'm going to turn it counterclockwise, which will lean it out. So there's an air bleed. Now she's idling in the 12s. That is a little fat. Like I said, if you're messing with these dual carbs, they're a little fat. Now we're going to drop it in the water. That puppy wants to go for a ride. That ramp is low. Water's low here on Caddo. We got one of the last ramps working, but even this getting a little sketchy at moments. Thank you, baby. nice ease down the river. Take y'all around the block. Initial impression so far, one thing I'll say is the noise off the carbs. You can definitely hear that pulsing off the carbs. It's kind of in your ear. We got a little stumble coming out. Probably gonna have to do a little tuning on it. But we're gonna make a loop around the prairie. She's running really good. One thing I think I overlooked was verifying that this has 4750 coils in it. This is a CDI motor, and I think it's got the 4350 coils in it. We're gonna cut off here. I'm gonna watch this AFR for a minute. All right, I put the phone down there for a minute. We kind of confirmed it's got 4350 coils in it. That's something I overlooked. I assumed the Black Death would have had the big coils in it, but after all these years, there's no telling. They might have got swapped or something. AFR is pig fat. When we're cruising anywhere on the needle, she's a solid in the tens. So we're gonna take it back to the ranch. We're gonna drop that needle a couple steps and see if we can get her to act a little better. But overall, not bad at all. She's doing pretty damn good. This boat is hurt. It sticks the nose. It's feeding water a little weird to the crotch. But overall, pretty damn cool boat. Drop the needles in this thing just in case y'all haven't seen it. That's what we're gonna do. And we're gonna be very careful not to drop these clips in the water, or that'll be another trip back to the shop. One day I'm gonna move my shop down here to the lake, make life a little easier, but it'll be a little while. All right, that's the needle we're gonna drop. Oh, look, she is floating. Oh, look right there, guys. That clip is supposed to go under that plate. So these needles were pure floating. So the last person in here just put them in the wrong spot. So we're gonna make some corrections. Before we actually drop them, first let's just fix it, then we'll go run it again. You see that little hole in there? A little tricky. Sometimes kid fingers are easier on this stuff. All right. Now we got the cable out. Don't let your spring go. Spring and a seal or a gasket. That is not supposed to float up like that. That goes in first. Then this guy holds that down. So that needle was pure floating. We're gonna set this back together without dropping it in the lake. Pull that clip up. So it looks like I'm gonna hook that first, then I'm gonna drop the plate back in. All right, definitely a little tricky. That's in position. The needle clip is under the plate. That's how it's supposed to go together. On these carbs, you've got one full cut line, that goes with the line-up dowel pin. This bevel side lines up with the idle adjustment screw. So if you put this in and you don't line those up and you fire it up, it will be wide open. Make sure it slides in all the way like it's supposed to. That's gonna be a definite improvement there. We're gonna pause for a minute. We're gonna repeat for the other side. We'll be back in a minute. All right, so we found cylinder 2, you know, that clip was above the plate, so that was a float needle. We checked cylinder 1, it was good. Take this and paddle our nose. It's old school HD, no reverse on this old girl. We're gonna take it and see how she acts. Put a half turn more fuel on cylinder 2. Idle fuel. Yep, that brought the AFR into the high 12s idle in there. Sit down, let's go for a ride. Running much better. We're still pretty damn fat when it's on the needle. When I say on the needle, that's quarter throttle to 3/4 throttle, but at least my gauges aren't pegged right now. Wide open, you can get a different reading. It's around a 12.0, 12.1, a little fat. We're gonna let that be. I think the only thing's getting us now is our 4350 coils. No matter what, we'll have to take it back, put some big coils in it, but we'll go for a little ride, and I think she's doing a lot better. Now with those needles all the way down, you are still fat, but if I over grab it with no pumper, it'll fall. So it's right in the middle of the happy place. You can't worry about these being perfect. They're not going to be. Not these are all 38 mil 2-stroke carbs. Just running pretty damn good. Doing some fishing. They waved me on, but I'm gonna run right by. I'm gonna circle around y'all. My kids know without saying, we see trash on Caddo, we grab it. Let my kid run this thing, see what he thinks. This is Rose Gap on Caddo. When the water's up, good little fishing spot right where it dumps into the river. We're gonna hang a right, run back down to the ranch. Engine's running really good. Look for what's coming when you poke out in this river. fine gentleman in front of us just doesn't know any better, but let off half throttle to pass these folks so his wave gets bigger. I'm sorry, you guys, some people just don't know. Beautiful day to be out on the lake. Got a good cloud cover. A lot of boats in the river. We're going to creep on back to the ranch. We've got our 47 coils, 4,700 coils installed.